Hey guys, welcome. We are back on the Authors Porch. I am so excited to be here with my co-host Anastasia. How you doing, girl?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am good. It's so good to see you again. We don't get to see each other very often. We might have to get this every week. Tonight we are also talking with. We've got CO Vault. I'm sorry, I'm flustered because my computer just made a noise, right? And it's like, what do I do? What do I do? How you doing over there, CO?
I am good. How
How
are
you
you?
doing? Good. I want to introduce everybody to CO because we got connected through a mutual friend of ours because she is actually from where I was born and raised. And but we didn't know each other in my former life. We met in our new life, which is the author life. CO writes these wonderful books, and I had the honor of actually reading both of her books and helping her bring her joy, bring her art to life, I guess you would say, and the formatting aspect of it. So, CO writes For the Children with Love. It is a series about saving the children. I'm going to let her explain it because I cannot do it justice. I've read the books and I'm going to tell you something. I don't know if you've had a chance to read them yet, Anastasia, but I was reading them and I told CO when I first started reading her first book, I read about the first 5 pages and I was like, I don't know if I can read this. But then I got past that first 5 pages and I went through every single emotion that you can think of and I thought, oh my God, how can I not read this? So when she said I've got the second book written and ready to go, I was like, oh yeah, let me read it so like we can get this going because we need to get it published. So like like seriously, so and she has her two books in the series and she's writing more and she also has a children's book that is published. So I want CO to tell you about these books because these books are literally going to grab you in your heart and in your mind and they're going to take you to places you never thought. I mean, you're going to feel rage, you're going to feel compassion, you're going to feel triumph, you're going to jump out of your chair and get ready to join in the fight because I know I did. So tell us
Wow.
about, yeah, like this is some heavy stuff. So give us some of your, before you tell us about the books, tell us about your background and what made you want to write this particular subject.
I feel like maybe I should tell you about our first conversation because my friend Beth Fletcher, I think it's Hudson Fletcher now or something like that, but we went to high school together and I don't think I've seen Beth since we graduated in 1989. So not to age ourselves or anything, but we, but she, we connected on Facebook and she's always been this wonderful supporter to me. And she's been great with the books and we've messaged and stuff like that. And she finally connected me with you. And I know that when I first talked to you, I told you that basically I've always wanted to write books. I'm a lifelong reader. I love to read. And I've always had this dream of being an author, but I've never had the courage to do it. And I'm a teacher. I waited till I was 35 years old to go to college, so I'm a late in life teacher. I had my kids all in school first, and then I went to college, became a teacher, and I taught for several years, and then I left teaching and I started working for the Department of Child Services. Actually, when I went to college, I started in human services and switched to teaching. And then I went to the Department of Child Services. And I was in the last few weeks of my cohort. There's a 3-month training. And I went to a class and it was on sex abuse. And we had to go through the sex abuse class. And I remember telling the lady, as I was walking out the door, I said, if there's ever an opening on your sex abuse team, I want to be on it. And I think it was less than a day, I had an email from her saying, hey, email this person. And I hadn't even graduated yet. I was still going to houses and I was following my mentor and everything around. And so I sent this email having no idea what I was doing. And it was come meet us at such and such time tomorrow. So I went down and met, and before I knew it, I was on the sex abuse team. I was pulled from my mentor and put with a mentor on the sex abuse team. In Indianapolis, we have a sex abuse team. They don't have that in most Department of Child Services. Most of them just have everybody's doing everything. But we have such a huge number of sex abuse cases that we actually have to have a team. So I worked on the team for about a year and a half. And as horrible as this probably sounds, that was my favorite job in my life. I loved that job because I felt like I was really making a difference, because I got to be that person that was the first knock on the door. I'm here to save the kid. I'm going to take the kid. I'm going to take it to the forensic interview. I'm going to have this child interview, and I'm going to save him, and I'm not going to let him get hurt anymore. I interviewed the victims, and I interviewed the perpetrators, and I interviewed the parents, and I interviewed all of those involved, and I worked with the forensic interviewers. And I loved that job. I will say after a year and a half, I found it very lonely. Nobody wanted to hear how my day was. Nobody wanted to hear anything because it was so hard. But, you know, we talked about sex abuse over sushi at lunch. I mean, that was just what we did every day. And it wasn't that we were numb to it. It was just that was what we were surrounded with daily. So anyways, my son, it was funny. My oldest son came to me one day and he goes, "Mom, I have the best idea for a job for me." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "It's great. You give me a list of pedophiles. I go to the door, I knock on the door, I said, 'Are you so-and-so? You touch so-and-so?' And I shoot them. And we're good." And I'm like, "That's a great job, but it's not a legal job, honey. So no, you can't do that." And he was like, "But man, that would be cool to get rid of all those people that are hurting kids." And so take me back to, I left DCS. I went back to teaching. I was in teaching for about a year. And I literally was in the bathtub. That's where all my ideas come. I have all my greatest ideas are born in the bathtub. And I'm in the bathtub trying to relax, and I'm thinking about some things going on at school, and I'm thinking about DCS, and I'm thinking about my son saying that to me, and it was like, I got an idea. And before I got out of the bathtub, Sadie's story was written. The beginning, the end, the names, the prologue, all of it was written. And so the books are about Delaney Lake. She is a social worker, and she has a mysterious past that has led her to open a organization called Children Come First. And that organization deals with child sex abuse. And she is sick and tired of people getting away with hurting children. So she decides she's just going to take it into her own hands. Yeah. So that is what For the Children with Love is about. I would like to say that my husband told me when I was on the sex abuse team, he's like, "People can't hear that. Normal people cannot hear that kind of thing." So when you read the books, you don't have to be afraid, because I did keep in mind that normal people cannot hear about the details of child sex abuse and sleep at night. So you know what happens to Sadie, you know what happens to the victims, but you don't get graphic details. You don't, you know, it's nothing like that. You do hear from her perspective and others' perspectives, but you're not getting that graphic detail that makes you go, "I can't read this anymore." And I hope you found that, CJ.
Yes, absolutely. And I just want to go back real quick, because it was funny how you said all your ideas are born in the bathtub, because
all of them.
I think every author has a place that their ideas are born in. Mine are born in a car. Like, you put me on a long car ride, and I'm coming back with 5 or 6 books, depending on how long the car ride is. What about you, Anastasia? Where's your books born out of?
Mine are born in the shower. Every time they're having a conversation with myself. So in the bathtub, I'm like, okay, I thought I was the only person that do this in the bathroom.
I even come up with great Christmas ideas in the bathtub. Every idea I have is great in the bathtub. And last night in the bathtub, I came up with a major twist in the next book. So born in the bathtub.
I'm excited. So when I was reading your books, that was one thing, because I didn't have any premise about what your books were about when I first read it. So like I said, when I read the first 5 pages and I realized it was about child sexual assault, I was like, I can't read about child sexual assault. That's just, I've got 2 kids, and the thought of someone harming my kids, I wouldn't want it to happen to them. But when I started reading it, I could read it, because you're right. It does not give you those details that make your stomach cringe or make you feel icky for reading about it. It's not. One of the things that I loved was every character in your book, it is told from the first person point of view. Like, I literally sat in each character's shoes of that book and felt what they felt. I saw what they saw. I listened to what they heard. And I was even in the perpetrator's shoes, and I was like hating myself at that point. I was like, wait a minute, hold on, let me get out of this book a little bit. So yeah.
And that's the hardest one to write from, because it's, I've been in the interviews with the detectives interviewing the perpetrators. The only time I had to interview them as if they were not going to substantiate, they weren't going to do anything about it, then I had to go interview them. And I've met some creepy people, and I've sat with some creepy people, and but I've watched some interviews that kept me up at night. I watched interviews that made me cry all the way home. I used to have a stopping point before I got to my house. It was a furniture warehouse, and I would pull off the road and I would sit there and calm myself so that when I got home, I could just be mom. I was never able to turn it off, though, and which was one of the reasons I left DCS. It wasn't because I didn't like the job. I loved the job, but I felt like I wasn't being the mom. I was a single mom at the time, and I needed to be available. And, when my daughter's saying, hey, I need to be to work in an hour, and I'm going, sorry, I'm on an assessment and I can't be there, so you're going to have to find a ride. I felt like I was failing my children. And so I had to put them first.
Right.
But I had a stopping point where I had to stop and calm myself before I would go home. But there were many nights I spent crying after watching interviews with the people that did this to children, and watching them, and the just pure evil. So when I write my books, I sit with my eyes shut and I just start typing, and I become that person, whether it's a 9-year-old girl or a 14-year-old girl or a mother of a child or Delaney or whoever. I become that person. And when I become that perpetrator, I'm pulling from all of those interviews that I've watched and listened to and been involved in, and I'm becoming that horrible person. And I'm telling you, you don't want to come into the room when I'm that person, because I'm just hateful and I'm mean and I'm just this nasty person that I can't even stand. And I normally have to go take a bath and calm down when I get done with it, So
that's funny. Now you've got Sadie's Story, which is your first book.
Right.
Nevaeh's story just came out the end of November, or was it the beginning of December?
I think it was the end of November, and I will say I think personally Nevaeh's is my favorite so far. I think hers is much deeper.
I just knew that I had it figured out, and then bam, no, and I was like I literally wanted to run into the room and tell people about it. I'm like, wait, this wasn't a movie. I was just reading a book, and I'm the only one that knows about it. So I couldn't share it with my family. So I was like, oh, okay, never mind. I can't talk to you guys about it. I'll have to talk to Debbie. I'll have to talk to CO about it. So
yeah.
So,
and I will tell you, my name's Debbie, but I go by CO Valt, and I'll tell you that comes from the fact that when I started writing Sadie's story, I said the book came to me in the bathtub. But I didn't write anything. I was too scared and didn't know what I was doing. And I didn't have that confidence. And then we found out my second son had cancer. And the book became this escape for me, because I had to escape that fear. He's an adult and I have no control, and I can't do anything about this. And cancer is so much bigger. And Sadie's story became this way of me coping. And that's when I started writing the book, was when he started going through all of that, and you know, praise God, he is cancer free, and they just had their first baby, and everything is wonderful. So that's all good. Yeah, I mean, that's all super good. But that's when I started writing Sadie's Free. And it was literally a way when I'm a better person when I'm writing.
Yeah. So let me ask you, I know you were just part of my book that I just published, and we published some of your true story, which is about your life.
Mm-hmm.
And you went through many years, and Anastasia, chime in here if this is something that you went through in your life, because CO talks about the self-doubt and not knowing if she could write this story, if she should write this story, and having that kind of like that thing on your shoulders that says no, you can't, or you know, that self-doubt. And in your story, you talk about that. What was that point in your life that said, I don't have to doubt myself anymore. I've got this?
For me, it was honestly when my husband Jim and I got together, and I had somebody that really just 100% believed in me. And another part of it was my friend Sherry Green Smith is her name. And Sherry and I met in kindergarten. So not to age us, but we've been friends for 44 years. So, you know, I had told several people, I'm going to write a book. And they were all like, oh, good job, Deb. You know, but when I told Sherry, she was like, well, yeah, of course you are. When are you going to do it? You know, it was almost like she always knew I wanted to, and she was just waiting for that time. And so I sent it to her first. I sent like the first couple chapters to her, and I really needed to know that I could do this. You know, my husband was always like, do it, you can do it. You know, he believed in me. But when Sherry came back with, okay, Debbie, I cannot wait to read more, get busy, I know this is going to be good. She gave me that encouragement and that belief that I needed. And because she knows me probably, she literally, if she ever writes a book about me, I better be dead. She knows everything about me. So, you know,
skeletons.
Yeah, she's not allowed to tell. She knows where the secrets are kept and where to burn. So she was huge in this whole process, and she still is. She is still probably one of my number one supporters. You know, and even my mom and dad, they were like, "Oh, great job!" And I got sidetracked. I have a million things in this head of mine. I write under the name CO Valt because my maiden name is Covalt, and my dad taught me to love reading. And my parents, I have great parents. They're wonderful. They're supportive. They're loving. And I wanted to honor my maiden name. So I do write under CO Valt because my maiden name is Covalt, and I also write under it because I don't want my students to read my books. And my little people want to read, you know, because if it says Debbie Lakin, they're going to read it. So the children's book is written under Debbie Lakin, but my adult books are written under a different name because I want to honor my parents, and I don't want my little people to read them or attempt to.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But Sherry was the main thing. Yeah. So
that's awesome. Now, Anastasia, you're younger. You're in your 20s. Did you ever have that doubt, that self-doubt put on you that you couldn't write? Because I know you've got, what is it, 15 or 17 books out there?
We're almost there.
I knew it was a lot.
Book 14 comes out next month. Well, that's not including the children's book, so that's why I think you came up with the 17. So you might be actually right. But yes, I have been through the self-doubt I kept talking myself out of it. If you know my backstory, I've been writing since grade school. So grade school came, I was writing. High school came, I was writing, and I still never felt confident enough to actually finish anything. Me and my friends, when we were growing up, I used to write little plays about us. I used to write little short stories, but I still never felt confident. So 2018 is when I had my second son, and I was on maternity leave going crazy. I'm like, I know I can be in here doing something. I know I can. I just know I didn't clean the house. I didn't get the laundry. I'm taking care of a baby. I am bored. Like, I am going crazy. So I started with my very first book, that's Dear Diary. And I'm like, okay, this is good. This is good. But will anybody like it? So like, I was still kind of talking myself out of it. But once the story started to flow, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take the chance and I'm going to go ahead and get it published. And that's the book that went through the publishing company. And I'm like, they liked it. Okay, cool. Okay, so I think I'm on to something. And then from then on, I'm up 14 books now. And I'm like, I will never doubt myself again because I know what I'm capable of doing. I did all that doubting. I probably would be so far ahead right now if I didn't doubt myself. I got to the point where it's like, okay, sometimes I don't talk proper English. I probably am not spelling the words correctly in certain areas, but I mean, who cares? Just write it and we'll deal with the grammar and all of that stuff later. So I'm happy I got out of that headspace because that's not a good place to be. We talk ourselves out of a lot of things and we're fearful of people not liking it, but in reality, they actually love it. So that's good.
Yeah, and
That's neat.
I'm really glad that both of you talked about the self-doubt that you had and which held you back just a little bit for some of us, and for some others it holds them back a lot. I didn't write my first book until I was 40. That was when I published my first book, and it was a children's book, and I did everything myself, including the graph, draw. I drew by hand. That is the worst book you will ever see, but it's my favorite, and it will always be my favorite. I'm telling you, there's run-on sentences, there's words spelled wrong. You probably won't even know what you're reading when you read it, but I absolutely love it. But because of the self-doubt, I wouldn't do it for so many years. And I look at where I was then and where I am now and the progress that I've made. Imagine if we started when we had that first idea, right? And
Yes.
there's so many authors out there that do not start when they want to start, or people in general that don't start when they have the idea or the passion to do something. And the thing is you get better with time. You get better. Um, not everyone's born great,
Right.
right? So, so thank you for sharing those self doubts that you went through, because it's important that we share those to let other people know that you have to come through something to get somewhere.
Yeah.
So, CO, you have two books right now in the For the Children with Love series. How many books do you, what's it called? Look ahead. What's that word called? Well, I tell you, it's late. I can't think of my words. What, what is that word? What do you project? How many books
I
do you project?
left for a minute, but only for a minute.
Are you there, CO?
What did you say?
How many books do you project to be in your series?
I am. Can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, ask the question again. I couldn't hear you. I think I have a bad connection.
Okay. How many books do you project to be in your For the Children with Love series?
Oh my gosh. Well, I have the two. I'm working on Danielle's story next. And then the next one I think is going to be Nathan's story. And then I don't know after that, because I could honestly I could keep writing book after book after book. I do have another book that I'm working on that has nothing to do with sex abuse, that is totally different, called Taking Back What's Mine. And I think after Danielle's story, I'm going to work on that, the ideas in my head. If I were able to write full time, I would probably have a book every 2 or 3 months.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish.
One day.
I'm working towards it.
Well, we're going to claim it right here
Yes.
that by the end of 2021, we will be full-time doing just this right here.
That would be awesome.
That's it.
Bringing more people to their dreams of authoring and just killing it. Just killing it.
Yes.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
So,
And I think it's really important to involve your friends and family, because I know that my workmates, my pod mates, Melissa and Jen and Kim and Shell, I mean, they read along with Sadie's story.
mm-hmm.
And they would come in the morning and be like, I hate him. What are you going to do to him? You need to do something to him. Like, I got this, guys. I got this. You know, they would get so excited. And then my mom read it, and her friend Bev read it, and my Sherry's mom, Mary, read it. And then when I started writing Nevaeh's story, my mom would text me in the middle of the night, and it would ding. And of course, you look when it's your mom in the middle of the night. They live in another state. And mom would be like, okay, here's my problem. You need to do something about this, 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 and that. And she would like have this list of things about the book. And it inspires you. It makes you want to write more. It gets you excited, and it keeps you interested in what you're doing, knowing that other people are waiting.
Yes.
So, and I even had my boss, Jennifer Rhodes, read Sadie's story. I was like, hey, by the way, I published a book. Would you want to read it? And she's like, yeah, I'll read it. And she happened to go home sick from work and started reading Sadie's story. And she texted me and she goes, this isn't a children's book. I figured it would have chickens in it and be a kid's book. And I'm like, no, it's not a children's book. And she's like, oh my gosh. And she's one of my biggest supporters.
That's
so good. Yeah, I mean, it's really neat when you have this community around you.
That's important.
It is.
Yeah, absolutely. Community is big, and some people have it, some people don't as authors, and it really depends on who you surround yourself with. And I think it's important that you find that tribe. If it's not within your immediate area, that you seek out other people. I mean, I met Anastasia through a children's book group, and I ended up reading her children's book, all my Auntie Nan's bedtime stories, and now we have a show together. I met you, CO, through my cousin, and now we work together doing books and stuff. So it's like you have to find your tribe, because not everybody has it in their immediate area. They don't have that big group of friends or family that will, catapult them forward like they need to be. Some people truly do live a life alone, I guess you would say, but they don't have to, because that their tribe could be inside that computer screen. And that's what people have to realize, is that tribe can be anywhere in the world nowadays. That's the best thing about it, is you don't have to be alone no matter where you're at. So I'm so glad that we were able to have this conversation, because I enjoy talking to you. We talk all the time, CO, and I talk with Anastasia all the time. When I pitched this idea of the Authors Porch, she's like, yeah, sure, let's do it. I'm like, she's my type of people. Because she's ready to do stuff. So, Anastasia, do you have any questions for CO before we head out for the night? Because it's getting late and I know she wants her glass of wine.
You do know me.
I do have a question. How can I purchase the author copies from you of your 2 books?
I can get you copies, Anastasia, and I will get you copies. So yeah, stick around and I will get you. If anybody wants to purchase my books, they can go through my website. It's booksbycovalt.com. So booksbycovalt.com is my website. And I have this fabulous lady helping me with my website named CJ. And she has the links on there for me so that people can just click directly onto the links for the books. So yeah, I'd love it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, and we have CO's website on the show notes, so you can find her Facebook page, her books, everything on her website. And she has a Facebook page. You want to follow her Facebook page because all of her updates as she's writing books is going through her Facebook page as well. And CO, do you have any shout outs you want to give to anybody? Anything that you want to share with our audience? Anything you want to say about your books before we head out for the night?
Oh my gosh, I could probably talk for another hour, so I don't think you want me to do that. There have been, I mean, I will if you really want, but I mean, I just have so many people in my life. Like I said, my pod mates at work, my best friend Sherry, my mom and her friend Bev and Mary, and just my husband. I would like to say my daughter does the covers for my book. And I actually have these. I don't know if you can see them. This is Sadie's story cover. I had it put on canvas. And then we have Nevaeh's story on canvas. My daughter, Peyton Kale, is a tattoo artist, and she designs my book covers for me. My children's book, The Forgotten Graveyard, I'll be honest with you, it may be the only children's book I ever write. I do like to write children's books, but I had these kids in 3rd grade and I loved them so much. I wanted to teach them another year. I didn't feel like I was done with them. So I looped and took my entire class with me. So I had these students for 3rd and 4th grade, and they knew I was writing a book, and they were really upset when they were told they're not allowed to read my book. And one of them said, well, you need to write a book to us and dedicate it to us. And I'm like, all right, what do you want me to write? And they're like, oh, a ghost story. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll write you a ghost story. So I wrote this book literally for my students. And then when COVID hit and I didn't get to say goodbye to them. And, you know, it's always hard to say goodbye after a year with these kids. We love our students. And I didn't get to say goodbye after 2 years. So it became very important to finish the book. Okay. And it is dedicated to every one of the students in the class. Their name is in the book as being dedicated. And I was able to order each of them a copy and deliver it to them at their house during COVID. Awesome. So I enjoyed that. The hard part is going from writing something so deep as Sadie's story and Nevaeh's story to writing a children's book. It's a little hard to switch back and forth. So, but that was a book that was literally written because I absolutely love my students. So, and my other students are enjoying it too. They're reading it this year. So, but I appreciate all the support I get. And CJ, you have been amazing to me. I am a horrible person with technology. Ask CJ, she'll tell you this, Anastasia. I really am terrible. I don't like technology. Do what?
I said, I'll never say it in public.
Okay, you can. I will be the first to admit I'm terrible with it. So many meltdowns and some tears, and I really, really appreciate everything you're doing, CJ, and just Beth for connecting us together. And you know, I have Shauna, who has become this friend from high school who's now like, hey, I will edit your books, you know. And between my mom and Sherry and her, that the editing is happening, and I just have incredible. And of course, my husband, he bought me a she shed, which is where I'm sitting in to write in, and all of that. So yeah, I have an amazing family and friends that help me.
That's good.
So, and I thank them.
That's awesome. I'm so glad that you have
And I thank you guys. Thank you for having me on here. This is fun.
Yeah, we like to keep it like this because, like I always say, every good conversation starts on the porch. You know, I always look back to that old Rascal Flatts song where it says, you know, sitting on the porch drinking ice cold cherry coke, watching the clouds go by. You know, back when Andy Griffith and all those folks was just hanging out and just, you know, people was just people, and there was no barrier.
Well, if you're ever in Well, if you're ever in Indiana and cows and goats and chickens and turkeys, and you can come hang out and sit on the porch and I'll make your iced tea.
Sounds good.
Well, we're going to be making
Yeah.
sure we make our way.
You're
over there
invited
next
too,
time we
Anastasia.
town.
You know that.
Thank you.
We're gonna have to take a trip. We're all gonna have to come together. But we're gonna go ahead and end the show for tonight. We are so excited for your journey, CO, and we're waiting for Danielle's story to come out and Nathan's story, and see what other books you have up your sleeve. Your children's book is actually going to be a present for a very special nephew of mine who
Aw.
I work with him a lot. We read a lot of books together. He'll read it and then I'll read it, or I'll read it and then he'll read it. So he's getting your children's book for Christmas. He actually just became an author of his own in his own right. He is 15 years old. He wrote his first book, and I'm helping him work on his second book now that he's writing. It's a vampire story, what is it? Vampires meets underworld type of story. So, anyways, so just know that your book is getting out there and reaching a lot of people. So
Oh, neat.
everything, when an author writes a book, what people don't understand is you can actually touch somebody's whole world. So your words are important. So thank you for coming on the show tonight, and we'll definitely be in touch. I'm gonna link you guys up in a message right after we get off of the show.
Okay.
All righty.
All right.
Thank you. Bye, Anastasia. Bye, CJ.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. We'll see you next time on the Authors Porch. Bye.
Bye.
Good night.